There's growing calls for either Judge Aileen Cannon to start contempt proceedings against the Department of Justice or impeachment proceedings start against her. I'm Michael Popak. You're on the MeidasTouch Network. Let's pick up the pieces of Judge Cannon and the new revelations by the House Judiciary Committee led by Jamie Raskin as the ranking member concerning a disclosure by the Department of Justice that on its face seems to violate an order of Judge Cannon that prevented this Department of Justice or future Departments of Justice to release any aspect of Jack Smith's Mar-a-Lago report concerning the obstruction of justice and the taking and using of confidential classified information by Donald Trump. See, the Department of Justice wanted and did obtain from Judge Cannon an order that gagged this Department of Justice and the next Department of Justice or any in the future from using any of the information from that report, burying it, and putting it in the trash bin of history. But that is exactly what the Department of Justice just did when it sent to the House Judiciary Committee documents, including a memo from January of 2023, in which Jack Smith's team outlined the profit motive that Donald Trump had to keep top secret classified documents. In other words, to profit from keeping war maps and other classified information. That ended up going from Department of Justice to the House Judiciary Committee, obviously to let MAGA House members try to discredit Jack Smith in some way. But that in itself violates the judge's order. And so all eyes are now on Judge Cannon. Either she starts contempt proceedings because nobody's going to start it for her. She has the inherent authority as a federal judge to do it herself. And if she doesn't do it, the question is, should she be impeached for obvious bias while she's being sitting as a federal judge? I cover it all. I'm Michael Popak. You're here on the MeidasTouch Network and Legal AF. Take a minute, help us continue to grow Legal AF as a pro-democracy channel. Judge Cannon, let's start from the beginning. Appointed by Donald Trump. She's had a series of things that she has done that have had people question her competency to be a federal judge and her loyalty to the rule of law. She was shortlisted to be Donald Trump's attorney general. When he was in his transition period, her name leaked out. You would think that alone would have her recuse herself from any future Trump matters. No, the opposite. She continued to participate in all Trump matters. She's been the judge for the would-be assassin of Donald Trump and sentenced him recently. She's been the judge on all of the Mar-a-Lago matters. She chastised Jack Smith, the special counsel, recently in a February order and has ruled consistently and never against the Department of Justice or Trump's position. There's even reporting that at the beginning of the Trump Mar-a-Lago case about him taking those classified top secret documents, she was requested by the chief judge of the Southern District of Florida, Judge Altanaga, a judge that I've appeared in front of, and told, you don't really have a lot of experience. You've only been a trial judge for a short amount of time. Maybe you should assign the case and let it roll over to a more seasoned judge. And she refused. Now, there is speculation that one of the reasons she's been bending over backwards to help the Trump administration and Donald Trump particularly is especially knowing that she was on the short list for Attorney General is that she thinks she's on the short list to be on the United States Supreme Court. In fact, I just had Representative Jamie Raskin on with me where he disclosed to our audience, we talked about the letter that he wrote to the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi demanding explanation as to why they have violated Judge Cannon's order by using information about Jack Smith's report that they successfully had buried by the order. I asked Representative Raskin about the possibility of the violations in contempt and the impeachment of the judge. And here's what he had to say.
That Pam Bondi's DOJ sent to us information that included a progress report from one of Jack Smith's lawyers saying that there was a clear business motive, that's what they thought was behind his pilfering of all these documents, including the one that was so top secret, only 6 people in the entire government could see it, one of them being the president of the United States. And then that, he's brandishing and waving around these documents on an airplane, obviously engaging in completely cavalier and promiscuous use of these documents that he kept, in the bathrooms and ballrooms and under the pool tables and ping pong tables at Mar-a-Lago. In response, the White House has been dragging my name in the mud all weekend, saying Raskin has zero credibility, no credibility. All I did was release the document they sent us by accident, right? So I don't need much credibility to say, here's what the Department of Justice just sent us. Now, look, we could clear the whole thing up very easily. Release Jack Smith's special report, his special counsel report, volume 2. Remember, the first one was released like every other special counsel report in history, but they've not released the one about the stealing of the documents and the ensuing obstruction of justice that took place when Trump refused to turn them over to the FBI. And, we don't even know where all of it stands right now. So basically, we just said, we want to know what were the business motivations behind the taking of these documents, and when are you going to release volume 2 of the special counsel report?
Bathroom comfort and hygiene are things most people, they don't think about it until something isn't working the way it should. That's where Tushy comes in. Tushy brings a modern, comfortable approach to everyday bathroom hygiene, with bidets designed to clean far more effectively than traditional toilet paper. Instead of endless wiping, Tushy uses fresh water to help remove up to 99% of bacteria while protecting your natural skin barrier. The Tushy bidet we received installed in about 10 minutes and attached easily to an existing toilet without the need for additional plumbing. The cleaning experience feels noticeably fresher and more effective compared with relying on toilet paper alone. Tushy bidets can also help reduce irritation, prevent micro tears caused by wiping, and many people who switch end up using up to 80% less toilet paper. Make going to the bathroom the most comfortable thing you do all day. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code LEGALAF at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at HelloTushy.com with promo code LEGALAF. Again, for a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code LEGALAF at checkout. That's 10% off at HelloTushy.com with promo code LEGALAF. So, the eyes of the world and those that believe in the rule of law are watching Judge Cannon. She would have to bring up this motion for contempt or order to show cause why contempt hasn't occurred in violation of her order on her own, because there is no longer any independent party in the Trump Mar-a-Lago case. It's now down to his captured Department of Justice and Donald Trump himself. So who's going to raise the issue? That's why judges have inherent authority to raise it themselves. That's what the ranking member, Jamie Raskin, has called for. That's who the Democrats on the Judiciary Committee have called for her to start contempt proceedings. And if she doesn't, the next false step would indicate that perhaps impeachment proceedings should be brought against her. When you just look at the line of things that she did, she initially interfered with the Department of Justice under Joe Biden's investigation as to whether there was a crime committed in Mar-a-Lago. She tried to intervene. She tried to interfere with the search warrant and the search warrant process, and she was reversed twice by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. She refused to step off the case when it was requested by the chief judge because of her lack of experience. She knows that she was on the short list as Attorney General because it was announced and never denied by the Trump administration. She knows that she's rumored to be on the short list for any Supreme Court decision, a Supreme Court opening, and we know she's trying out for that as well. She's handled the assassin case and, of course, ruled against the person that tried to take a shot at Donald Trump. She's ruled against Jack Smith in scathing terms. She's issued an order that's now been violated, and she's not doing anything about it. This sounds to me like a case for impeachment at the House. Now, Representative Raskin was understandably coy about whether when the Democrats get the gavel and Jamie Raskin is made the chair of the Judiciary Committee, whether they're going to go after somebody like Judge Cannon. But Republicans in MAGA are constantly calling for the impeachment of judges like Judge Boasberg, who's the chief judge in D.C., because they don't like his rulings about the Trump administration. You know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Here, as I've outlined, we've got a very strong case that should be investigated. And of course, judicial complaints can be made against Judge Cannon that have to be investigated. If I were Representative Raskin, I'd make a referral to have the appropriate judicial committee that sits over the 11th Circuit and over the Southern District of Florida investigate Cannon and decide whether she should be sanctioned or not. And certainly, we should be considering impeachment. Now, of course, the Trump administration and its propaganda minister, Carolyn Leavitt, all they've done is go after Jamie Raskin. Here's Carolyn Leavitt going after Jamie Raskin in his letter to Pam Bondi, demanding to know why she violated the order of Judge Cannon. Let's play the clip.
Does the White House have a comment on a letter that was sent from Congressman Raskin to the DOJ alleging that the DOJ recklessly released damning information in regards to President Trump's documents?
Yes, I saw that letter from Congressman Raskin this morning, who I would add has zero credibility, and this letter was clearly a cheap political stunt. What the congressman did here, Brian, and for everyone in the room who's hopefully not reporting on this as fact, is that he took untrue and salacious claims in a memo that was produced by Jack Smith, who has been completely discredited for his lawfare and his witch hunts against this president. And that information was unverified. It never even made it into the indictment because it was so unverified. And what happened to that indictment anyway? It was thrown out. And Jack Smith has been proven, again, to be a prosecutor on a witch hunt against President Trump. He tried to throw him in jail ahead of the 2024 election. The Biden Department of Justice was fully on board with this lawfare campaign. And in fact, this story that was concocted by Congressman Raskin was so ridiculous. I understand his communications team reached out to some outlets in this room who responsibly said, we're not going to write this because this is just too much. However, of course, MS Now did write that story this morning because they continue to be left-wing propaganda for the Democrat Party. But I think Jack Smith has been proven to be a liar and a fraud. And this is, again, a cheap political stunt from a Democrat on Capitol Hill who I think wants to get himself on cable television.
This is a fast-moving story. We're going to follow it here on Midas Touch and, of course, over on Legal AF. Help us get to our 1.1 million subscriber barrier. We need your help to do it. And now is the time for you to come over to Legal AF YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.